Hello, welcome to FPL IQ. My name's FPL Rob. I'm joined with teacher FPL Lucian, and today the FPL team guide is focused on Everton. The Toffees, are they going to be sweet or sour this season? And today we're going to be looking at predicted lineups. We're going to be looking at their play styles and their strengths and weaknesses, and players to potentially pick or potential traps at the start of this season. Lucian, how are you doing? Are you excited to talk Toffees today?
It depends on how excited you are about our favorite wizard, Dashball. There are so many ways to look at this team, and I look forward to going through everything from Frank Lampard's hot mess to the current squad that sort of looks solid, but somehow has underwhelmed on every single front. So let's get into it.
Yeah, well, we're going to see a lot of the teams favor a 4-2-3-1. It is one of the stable formations, but here we have something different that we think it's going to be a 4-5-1. And when we talk about the strengths and weaknesses later, we're going to talk about just sort of how defensive, and you said it yourself, Dash Ball is, this is it. This is like absolute stereotypical Dash Ball. So in goal, no surprise, Jordan Pickford, 4.5 million. Now thinking that Coleman's going to be starting the season at right back, Mikulenko at left back, with Keane and Tarkowski in the middle. Five in midfield, so Iwobi on one wing, McNeil on the other, with Garner, Gay, that's Garner, one player, and Gay, not Garner Gay, Garner and Gay, and Doucouré as the three central midfielders, with hopefully Dominic Calvert-Lewin playing up front. Now, I was umming and ahhing between Garner and Onana. I know it's like a rhyming game right now, but you've got Onana, the young player as well, who gets a lot of starts too. But towards the end of the season, Garner was the player that they were starting at central midfield. But it does seem like you've got Iwobi as more of a midfielder than a winger, but he has more of a license to free roam, whereas McNeil is more of your typical wide midfielder. Now, I'm saying wide midfielder because they don't particularly play with wingers like you would say Salah is a kind of attacking forward / winger for Liverpool. No, these are wide midfielders rather than your sort of ultra attacking wings. And this is a problem that I find with Everton in terms of their attack. So Dominic Calvert-Lewin as well, if he's fit, we know Morpay is still there as backup, but it just all comes back to his fitness. And of course, Dele Alli is back at Everton from his arguably unsuccessful loan spell in Turkey. We could do a whole video talking about this guy. He had the world at his feet, and now he's just completely dropped off. Could he recapture any of that old sparkle that he used to have? He would be straight in this team if he could rekindle that fire for football. But yeah, so in terms of backup players, I would say they've got Dele Alli, you've got Onana, and defensively, I have got Coleman at right back. He could be out. Potentially Holgate could be in there, but this is what I feel will be the start of the season 11. How are you feeling about this Everton side?
First Everton player I owned last season was 4.0 million defender Nathan Patterson. I hope he's still 4.0 million. I highly doubt it. I think he'll be 4.5. Yeah. So that's such a shame. I love that boy so much, at least compared to Seamus Coleman. The thing about Everton's 4-5-1 is that it is actually a strict 4-5-1. I've not seen a more flat midfield this decade. I mean, I don't mean like figuratively flat. I really mean like shape-wise, they are a flat five, no one ahead of the other. Of course, this assumes that they are running their plan A, because towards the end of the season, they did tweak their formation quite a lot, trying to implement three defenders by integrating Tarkowski, Cody, and Yerry Mina. They tried having James Garner, experimented with him on either wing. But I do feel that Sean Dyche's new philosophy, right? He calls it protecting the V, which sounds so sexy and vulgar at the same time. It's aptly correct because it allows teams to get into the most inefficient zones while allowing them to protect their most efficient zones at the same time, which is, like trying to counter an increasing trend over the last 5 years. Basically, long story short, is that when you place your players in a 4-5 formation, right, you create all these mini triangles, right? You think of like left back, left wing, left central midfield. And then you have left back, left centre back, left central midfield. You get like a series of triangles all across the screen. That basically covers any attacking threat, whether early or late to arrive in the box, whenever you allow them to hold the ball at the byline. And that is essentially it. Sean Dyche will set up his side to guide an entire zone, right, from the 6 yard area outwards, like a V shape. And that's it. They just sit there. I think the beautiful thing about all of this is that particular 4-5 block, right? It can sit deep, it can play advanced, it can even shift laterally. I think that's the most beautiful thing about this new version of Dyche ball, where at one point when you watch Everton attack, right? Let's say Iwobi picks up the ball on the right flank. Okay, you've got all these central midfielders that back him up, and I really don't care who the number 9 is right now. It could be Sims for all I care. I know he's at Coventry, but at some point you would see Dwight McNeil shouting for the ball, like smack dab in the middle of the center circle while the ball is on the right flank. This is completely unusual for Dyche ball, and I think that regardless of starting 11, we should be looking at the compactness of Everton's attack as well as their defense moving forward and back, because that really dictates how aggressive Sean Dyche needs to be. The problem with Dyche ball was that they could never come up with a consistent way of scoring, like their front 5, right, so to speak. Not including the striker, you're looking at Iwobi and McNeil swapping flanks, and then the 3 central midfielders, Onana, Dokore, and Ghana, basically taking turns moving forward. I think that is the one silver lining that they took from Frank Lampard's reign. Sean Dyche basically discovered that those 3 central midfielders, none of them have to be an out-and-out DM. They can all play central, they can all bomb into the final third, and they can all score goals. And it's just a matter of who gets that hot streak. So I'm really looking forward to see what we can get from this Everton side.
Yeah, I just feel as well like the when you talked about the changes towards the back end of the season, like even like the final game of the season, they played something like a 4-3-2-1 or a 4-3-3. That was towards the end of the season. That's because they had to go out and get points. They had to go and score. They had to go and win to stay in the Premier League. Whereas starting a new season fresh, that's why we think they'll revert back to a 4-5-1. And it could easily enough go to a 4-2-3-1. If you want to put Gay and Decore as the 2 central defensive midfielders and push Garner, Iwobi and McNeil up, it is possible. But to start the game, to start the season, we're looking at a 4-5-1. So let's move on to the strengths of the side then. So we've talked about the players and having that sort of flat 4-5-1 formation. And here's where we look at Everton. And for me, you split it between Dominic Calvert-Lewin is, if he's fit, he's the only attacking player that I'm going to be looking at from this side. But defensively, because there's such a defensive side, I wouldn't mind investing in someone, even if it's Pickford, in their defense because of how many defensive-minded players are in that side. So we've talked earlier about having such a flat 5, and they lack a little bit of creativity, in my opinion. I think they're a little bit too defensive-minded, but they don't actually let that many goals in for a team that stayed up on the final day of the season. They let 57 goals in, which is more mid-table than relegation levels. We know the problem with Everton is getting the goals. So the fact that all of their players are sort of 4.5 million in defense for a team that is defensively minded, defensively set up, that play to go and get those 1-0 wins, again, starting with a team like Everton, in my opinion, defensively, just having one player that rotates for 4.5 million isn't the worst thing to do, especially with someone like Pickford, who gets a lot of save points as well. So he could get clean sheets, but if he does, he's probably getting saves and he's probably getting bonus as well. Any strengths that you point out from this Everton side?
I'd actually go straight to the elephant in the room, literally. Tarkowski and Keane are giants, absolute giants. They don't even need Connor Cody to be there. The two of them are absolute beasts in the air, time and time again, whether it's under Frank or under Sean Dyche. Set pieces come, one guy attacks the near post, the other guy attacks the far post. I mean, you don't even need them for clean sheet potential, really. I absolutely love owning one of them, given the chance, given the fixtures, given the chance, because I think that is what we expect out of a 4.5 million defender. Like the ideal output of a 4.5 million centre back, particularly, would be clean sheets at home with a small chance of set piece goals. And that is what I believe Everton's centre backs do really, really well, regardless of corner taker. And I just feel that with McNeil in the side, somehow the entire squad's potential just massively increased in terms of set pieces.
Everton are a really good partner team for Liverpool, and if you're risking it, Luton. So if you're putting every single penny and you've got that 4 million bell from Luton and a 4.5 million defender from Everton, Everton and Luton partner very well, but Everton's the senior partner in that. But the fact that they partner well with Liverpool, now you're probably always going to play a Liverpool player, but if that was a way that you're going to go about it, they feel like they have a very good partner relationship with a lot of sides, but also themselves are. I always look at the first 8 games of the season because I usually wildcard within that time frame, and Everton are 3rd on the fixture ticker. So we're talking about a team that we believe can get clean sheets against particularly weaker opponents because they're looking for that 1-0 win. But the fact that they're 3rd and they only play Arsenal from your traditional sort of top 4 sides. The only ones that stick out after that is Aston Villa in game week 2 and Brentford in game week 6. But the other ones, Fulham at home, Wolves at home, Sheffield United, Luton at home, Bournemouth at home in the opening 8. This is why currently Pickford is my goalkeeper for 4.5 million. I said before about him and Leno being really good rotation options, but the fact that they're so high up on the fixture ticker, or you can rotate one of the defenders with Luton, who are 2nd on the fixture ticker for the opening 8 games. That's why it's been talked about. But they also partner well with Liverpool. I just think that's where the strengths for this side lie in terms of FPL. Also in terms of attack, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, if he's playing, he is a talisman, he is the main man, and he's only 6 million. But fitness is the big one for him. He's got the tools, he's got the talent, but does he have the ability to stay fit long term and play week in, week out? That's where something might be wrong. But let's go on to the weaknesses. We've said how they're pretty good defensively and they should only be middle of the table in terms of how many goals they concede. But a weakness is, of course, attacking depth. Dominic Calvert-Lewin is out. Where do goals come from? They come from Decore scoring a screamer to keep them in the Premier League. They're not. They're scoring from, what was it? Tarkowski giving it to Keane to give it to Cody to score, or it was like the 3 centre-backs that combined to, I think, was it the win against Wolves? And it was like the 3 centre-backs combining in the last minute to get a draw, wasn't it, at Wolves, like one of the last games of the season. Where do goals come from? If Dominic Calvert-Lewin can keep fit for a string of games, it just feels impossible the last 2 seasons, and there's no good replacement. They've got more pay, and that's essentially it. The 2nd fewest goals scored last season, just ahead of Wolves. So in terms of conceding, they're mid-table. In terms of scoring, they're relegation. And that is a big alarm bell, especially because I've not seen any big incoming attacking-minded players for the side. And just the fact the defensive style. So they sit back and they try and get a goal from somewhere, but if that doesn't work out, it feels like they lack ideas or lack a creative player to sort of grab the game by the scruff of the neck. Sometimes last season it felt like Iwobi or McNeil was the player to sort of grab the game and try and make something happen, but I just think that they have so many defensive minded players that it does make an impact further up the field, and that's being seen with just how little amount of goals that they've scored. No surprise as well that lack of creativity, I think, leads to an increase in crosses and set piece attempts. So it's no surprise for me that they're the 7th best for crosses and 7th worst for chances created. So they are doing a lot of crosses, but they're not successfully creating a lot of chances. So it feels like they don't have a particularly creative couple of players in that side. They resort to a lot of crosses to maybe one of the big defenders, like you said, or Calvert-Lewin when he's fit. But in terms of how many actual chances they're doing, they're 13th, and that's seen with just how many goals that they've scored. Any weaknesses that you point out with this Everton side?
This is going to sound so strange, but they have too many players in that squad they can't buy players because they've got too many players coming back on loan. I do feel that the entire starting midfield, right, Ghana, Onana, as well as Doucouré, right, as crucial as they were towards the end of last season, I think it is time for them to be replaced. They have so many quality players coming back, and I do feel that Sean Dyche should be under pressure to be fielding these guys instead of trying to shoehorn talent into unfamiliar roles. Right now, Dele Alli aside, who's 27, they also can consider James Garner, who did really well towards the end of last season, as well as Andre Gomez, who also came back on loan. All of these players are quality, much actual mid-table quality. Like, if you told me Onana is mid-table quality, sure. As number 6, he's great. He has almost certainly outperformed expectations. But if you told me that Iwobi is a mid-table player, if you told me McNeil was a mid-table player, I'd scarcely believe you. I'd have to see solid evidence that they've improved from their previous clubs to be taking that sort of opinion seriously. Whereas if you told me the midfield were consisted of Onana, Garner, and Gomez, I think you'd take Everton a lot more seriously to challenge the likes of Crystal Palace and Fulham and Brentford. You know, those actual mid-table teams. The problem now is that they have so many underperforming assets, and yet they have the expectation of challenging for Europe at a stretch. And it's really all because of Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Like, if he weren't in the side, I don't think anyone gives Everton or any hope or prayer to survive in this league, because they're just so demotivated, really similar to Chelsea in some sense, except their players were never truly good in the first place. The biggest issue that Everton have to fix is not a case of identity, it's not even a case of player quality, it's just mentality. Somehow they have to play like favourites, but they have the player quality of being underdog. Where do they go? Do they aim up? Do they go fearless? Do they play cautiously? I think the biggest weakness here is that no matter how much you promote Everton as an FPL asset, nobody's going to actually buy Everton players. I can for the life of me, I have no idea how to market Iwobi, McNeil to you. I have absolutely no idea how. Even if, let's say, all of their players had their prices dropped to like 5 million, right? They'd be basically the next Pedro Neto. I would not. I would rather sell you Bournemouth. I would rather sell you Wolves. Yeah, there's absolutely no way in hell right now I would sell you Everton. That's the biggest issue.
Just a couple of points. Like, so Andre Gomez, when I've seen him, he's not been the same since he broke his leg. I think when Son did it, and I think he has lost a step of pace. So Sean Dyche hasn't seen a lot of these players that have come back from loan. So I would honestly not be surprised to see Dele Alli get the run in the side, because he will sit down and talk with him and figure out his own mind. You know, Sean Dyche is a man of the world. He'll say, I don't care what everyone said. I don't care about what your past is. I'm going to look at you right here, right now to see if you want to play for this football club. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Dele Alli. I think maybe we're being a little bit harsh on Iwobi McNeil. They both got identical points in 126. 10 attacking returns, so 8 assists and 2 goals for Iwobi, and 7 goals and 5 assists for McNeil. 28 starts for McNeil, 38 for Iwobi. So he played every game of the season for 126 points. Isn't the worst for 5.5. McNeil's output's a little bit better because he's 10 fewer games for the same points. But you're right in the sense of the only way it feels for Everton at the moment, despite that feel-good finish last season of staying up, it just feels like the only way is down, because they don't have that quality, and it's not going to get any better because, you know, they've lost like 300 million in 4 years. Like, you look at the players, like, wasn't Doucouré signed for like 50 million or something crazy from Watford? Like, they've spent a lot of money on not good players, and now there's some other financial irregularities and what they're going to be doing, that it's still not good. They're still in the Premier League, so they'll take that. But I don't think anyone's going to be thinking that they're going to be anywhere near Europe. And I think another stay in the Premier League is just praying that they're going to be still in the Premier League this time next year, because you're right, the quality is not there. They don't seem to have any money to boost the squad. They sold Keyman Richarlison last season, and that money has gone where? They've had to loan the players out, and that money's gone where? It's not going back into the side. So a lot of the off-field problems, talking about weaknesses, that does affect on-field and in reflection FPL as well, is there's so many off-the-field problems. It's seeping straight back onto the pitch. And in terms of the quality of the players that they've got and the ones that they have to sell and the ones that are coming in, it's not good. It's really not good. So in terms of players to pick, then it is slim pickings really. That Everton is not a team we've talked. They're quite good defensively, not in terms of attack. I'm just going to say the first one for me is 4.5 million. It's Pickford. Save points. Everton third on the fixture ticker for the opening 8 games, and he's third for saves. So gets not many clean sheets maybe, but he does get save points, and if he does get a clean sheet, he's probably going to get bonus. Your first choice, which you've already mentioned in a way when you talked about the big men at the back.
And this is slightly tricky because I do feel that Tarkowski and Keane both play significantly different roles on set pieces. Tarkowski is a far post header merchant. He's either really good at towering over players to win headers, or he's really good at just knowing when to not contest for headers and win the second ball. Tarkowski is just good in that sense. Keane, however, has this little sprint in him that allows him to steal a yard ahead of his marker for near post headers. So this is where both teams really shine, because no matter if you defend the near post or the far post, one of them is going to get you. A very good example would be the type of floaty free kick that McNeil puts in from the left side. Absolutely loves this kind of cross because when it floats, right, it allows you to build pace from the back in a defender's blind side, and it allows Tarkowski to basically come in completely unsighted for a header, right? It's much more effective than corners, because what we notice about the Premier League is that their corner routines almost always focus on trying to disrupt the first man. It's not about getting it past him. It's just about actually dominating that first man so that you can flick the header on for the loose ball. This has been a tried and tested strategy in the Premier League, and this is why Arsenal had done so well at set pieces, and that was exactly what Manchester United and Liverpool were trying to do. The thing about Everton is that they had these two beasts in the air already. They had Michael Keane, who could actually rush near post, and at the same time, if it didn't work, then they can just block the first man and allow Tarkowski to sweep it up at the far post. In that sense, picking one of these two defenders against upcoming opponents would really require you to study set piece weaknesses of their opponents rather than their own strengths. I can't tell you for sure who would do it right now, but I would say after 4 games, when Everton have a more decent stretch, right, to own them for 4 games, I'd come up with a better recommendation, but it'd be either one of them for the start of the season.
I will say in terms of the side, though, that Tarkowski is by far the first choice. Keane lost his place. He only started 10 games. And he lost his place to Cody that came in. But Cody, he's gone to Leicester for under 10 million. So the fact that Everton couldn't even pay to keep Cody if they wanted him, it's a worrying sign. Second pick, well, I'll just skip to my third because my second pick was a defender. The same reason minus the save points. So I would also go towards Tarkowski because he's the main one, and he is an attack, a threat on crosses and set pieces. So the third one, it's Calvert-Lewin, because I keep saying in these videos that I think a lot of people play 3-5-2, and a lot of people might have an 8 million striker next to Haaland. But if you're really looking to save some money and you're looking for, if he's fit, he's the talisman. He's the one player that they're going to keep crossing to. They're going to keep passing to. They're putting all their goal scoring hopes on Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And for 6 million, if he's fit, you've got a guy that's going to play 90 minutes because there's literally like no one else that they want to give the ball to. There's no one else who they think is going to be the goal scorer, and he's probably on penalties as well. That's just the one where if we look at pre-season and he's looking all right and he gets some pre-season games together, if you start the season with him, the third on the fixture ticker, and he can keep his fitness, it's not the worst. So Everton didn't score a lot of goals, and I think largely that is because they didn't have this man. He was getting into the England squad, and he's in around there. He just, the last couple of seasons, I don't know what's happened with him. Maybe off-field things attracting his attention, or just general fitness issues. But when he was on it, he was on it. You know, I've owned him a lot in FPL, and especially when Richarlison was there, those two guys were great, and I think he's a pretty good choice. Your second pick and your kind of third pick is looking at 2 midfielders. Who are you looking at?
These are really based on form, because Doucouré and McNeil were integral parts of Sean Dyche's side. You know, it's like when Sean Dyche walks up to Everton and he's like, "Okay, where are my homies?" And Dwight McNeil has his hand up straight away. It's like, hey, and they have their special secret handshake or something. It's pretty much the Dwight McNeil Sean Dyche thing. I really look forward to seeing how Sean Dyche intends to evolve his side, because I do feel that what we see over the next 4 game weeks of this season's Everton will be completely different from what we saw last. Absolutely different. We will see certain players get sacrificed. I think Dokore and Gay are on the chopping board very firmly, as well as Seamus Coleman. I think it's time for Patterson to come in, and that will essentially change the way Everton attack, particularly down the right side, because Frank Lampard has somehow unearthed Iwobi as a gem in central midfield, and then he gets shunted out to the right side. So what's going to happen to Iwobi now? I did consider Iwobi for Everton's double game week last season, and it fell flat horrendously. But that being said, McNeil fell flat too. So it was really difficult to tell who actually came good, who would come good for Everton. But as it stands, midfielders are the soul of the FPL this season. So picking a midfielder from Everton really is only the second pick, because we have absolutely no clue about 1/4 of Everton's current side. Yeah, that's really all I have to say, because I think we should move on to DCL. That's really the crux of the problem.
So we'll go on to the traps. I just personally have said the midfield, because they all pretty much feel defensive except for McNeil and at times Iwobi. So that's an avoid. I think anyone is looking at Everton, they're looking at the goalkeeper, perhaps a defender, maybe Calvert-Lewin if he's fit, and that's it. But you think that Calvert-Lewin is going to be a trap or one to avoid?
Every season, FPL intentionally makes one particular price bracket extremely bloated. Last season, it was the 8 million bracket. We had Watkins and Tony and DCL, right? Case in point. Like, there were all these mid-table to European challenger squads that had these 7.5 to 8 million strikers. Even Raul Jimenez was 7.5 from what I remember. And then the season before that, it was 6.5, right? Because Watkins and Bamford and the lot were all like, they just came up from the championship, and they tried to lump a lot of these players together. Oh, sorry, I think Bamford was 5.5. But that being said, this season we actually have 2 separate brackets. Right? We have a bracket that's like 7 to 7.5 in terms of forwards, and then we have another bracket that's like this, 6 million firmly. And then I think this is why 352 is so popular, because we know that there are all these unearthed gems that operate in the 6 to 6.5 range, right? That were basically mid-table strikers that have fallen from grace. We really need to stare and face the fact, why did these players even fall from grace in the first place? If I were to push you the fact that Raul Jimenez, now with all these bad players gone, right, is absolutely worth 7 million now, but he's priced at what, 5.5? Who would listen to me?
5.5.
Same thing with DCL. If I told you that DCL has a completely new gang behind him and he's worth 8 million now, who's going to listen to me? Like, there has to be, like, I took the bait last season. I bought DCL. In fact, I waited for this one defender, right, that rose in price from, was it Simicas? Right? Because Robertson was injured.
Yeah,
And then we all waited for his price to go from 4 to 4.2, and literally the next day he dropped. And we all used that money to buy Calvert-Lewin because of his run. And DCL got injured like 2 games after. Some things just don't change. And that's why I do strongly believe that DCL will be a trap. I mean, it's the same thing with Reece James. Enjoy your points if you get him, but it's basically one transfer in for him and one transfer out.
You pencil it in a transfer out, yeah.
Yeah. Do you like that? If you're that sadistic, sure, go for it.
Yeah, you touch on Raul Jimenez. A real shame. Was it 8 starts last season? No goals, 2 assists. He's not even, when we talk about Wolves, it's not even in the predicted first 11 when I spoke. You're a Wolves fan. And I spoke to I think it was Black Wolf as well, and he was just like, yeah, even though we've not got any strikers, he's still unlikely to be in the first 11. Calvert-Lewin had 15 starts last season, so he didn't even start half of it. 2 goals, 1 assist for the entire season. And then the season before that, 5 goals and 2 assists. The last 2 seasons, like you say, it's just about falling off a cliff and whether or not they can get back. Rating this side out of 10, I'm going to downgrade him to a 4 out of 10 because Pickford, I think Pickford, look, they've got a great run of fixtures. If you want to pair them with Luton, if you believe in that promoted side, or you want to pair them with Liverpool, or if you just believe in them by themselves, they'll tick along nicely probably to your first wildcard. I don't think Pickford in goal for the first 8 games is the worst decision to make. He's one of the better choices at 4.5 million. If you want to have Tarkowski, or for some reason Mikalenko or Keane, if you think he's going to nail it, it's not the worst. If DCL shows me a glimpse of 3 seasons past, he's not old, he's still got time to come back, just like Dele Alli has. He's at least at 27. There's still belief there. Then it's not the worst, but you'd only be looking defensively at this side. They don't create anything. If there's no Calvert-Lewin playing, you're just praying for a clean sheet for this side, basically. So it's just a 4 out of 10 for me. 2 for you?
Absolutely. Yeah. 2 out of 10. 1 for Tarkovsky, 1 for McNeil.
Just 1 point each.
That's it.
No point for Pickford?
Nah, not at all. Pickford in Chinese, the word is 上镜. He's very photogenic. Pickford is the most photogenic
with his flying
goalkeeper in the league.
saves. Or when
not the flying, not for the saves, not for the saves. It's for the screaming. Pickford's for the screaming.
The goalkeepers do that. Yeah, when the defender didn't make a block and he rushes out and he screams at his defenders. Or he makes a saves and shouts like that.
Yeah. All the millennial kids will go like, "Let's go." Yeah, that guy.
Fair. Well, that's it for Toffee Talk time. So let us know in the comments below what you think about this Everton side. Do you think that they're going to be in a relegation battle? Do you think they're going to turn the corner there and rise up? Are there any Everton players that you look to start the season with? Perhaps Pickford? Are you going to risk it on DCL? Let us know in the comments below. We will be back next time with Fulham, an interesting team. I know you're an admirer of the Marco Silva play style over there. I'm a big fan of Mitrovic, despite how many penalties he missed for me and red cards he got. But nevertheless, we'll be back with Fulham. Thanks very much for joining us today. And as always, have a good one.